LeBron James is 41 years old. Think about that for a second. 23 NBA seasons, more games played than anyone in league history, and more points than anyone in league history. 4 championships, 4 MVPs, and somehow after all these years we still having the same conversation. Can LeBron James still compete for a championship? Because here is the thing, most players don't get to choose how their careers end. The game chooses for them. The athleticism disappears, the production falls off a cliff, the league moves on. But LeBron isn't most players. Even at 41 years old, he's still producing at a level that would make a lot of all-stars jealous. Which brings us to the biggest question of the 2026 offseason. Should LeBron finally retire, or does he have one more chapter left? Today we're breaking down how good LeBron actually was this season, why retirement might make sense, why coming back might make even more sense, and what this decision could mean for his legacy. And trust me, the answer isn't nearly as simple as people think. Let's start with where things stand right now. Coming into this season, the Lakers had serious expectations. You had Luka Doncic, you had Austin Reeves continuing to improve, and somehow you had LeBron James playing meaningful basketball in year 23. For stretches, this team looked incredible. In fact, during that dominant stretch between February and March, the Lakers went 16-2. Think about that. A team led by a 41-year-old LeBron looked one of the most dangerous teams in basketball. The trio of Luka, LeBron, and Reeves was creating offense at an absurd level. Every possession felt dangerous, every game felt winnable. For a moment, it looked like the Lakers had figured it out. And honestly, that's what makes this conversation so difficult. Because if the Lakers had completely fallen apart all season long, this debate would be easy. But they didn't. There were moments when they looked like a legitimate contender. There were moments when it felt like LeBron might actually have another deep playoff run left in him. Then the playoffs happened. The Lakers ran into Oklahoma City and everything changed. Without Luka, of course, the weaknesses that existed all season suddenly became impossible to hide. The roster wasn't deep enough, the defense wasn't consistent enough, the margin for error was too small, and the result was a second round sweep. Suddenly the conversation shifted. Instead of asking how far the Lakers could go, people started asking whether LeBron should even come back. Now here's what nobody should ignore. LeBron was still really good this season, and I think that's getting lost in the conversation. When people hear 41 years old, they automatically assume decline, but the reality is much more complicated. LeBron isn't being compared to other 41 years old anymore. He's being compared to current NBA stars. That's the standard he's created for himself. Think about how ridiculous that is. Nobody talks about him as an aging player. People still expect him to impact winning at the highest level, and for good reason. Even after dealing with an injury and missing time earlier in the season, he remained one of the most productive players on the roster. His efficiency stayed high, his playmaking remained elite, his basketball IQ is still arguably the best in the league. And while the explosive athleticism isn't what it was during his Miami years, he's found ways to dominate games without relying on pure physical gifts. That's what separates him from almost everyone else. He's evolved, and honestly, that's probably the most impressive thing about his entire career. Now let's be real for a second. Most superstars don't age gracefully. We've seen it over and over again. The skill that made them great start disappearing. The game speeds up, the body slows down, and eventually they're forced to accept a smaller role. LeBron never allowed that to happen. Instead, he adapted. The player we see today isn't the same player who was attacking the rim every possession in Cleveland. He's not the same player who was winning MVPs in Miami. He's become something different, a basketball mastermind, a player who controls tempo, a player who sees plays before they happen, a player who can completely change a game without scoring 40 points, with experience, intelligence, positioning, and decision making. And honestly, that evolution might be just as impressive as his athletic prowess. Now let's talk about the argument for retirement, because there are some very strong reasons why this might be the perfect time. First of all, what exactly is left to prove? Seriously, what accomplishment is missing? He's already played with his son Bronny. For years, that was one of the biggest goals of his career. People wondered if he'd stay in the league long enough to make it happen, and he did. That dream became reality. Then you look at the records. All-time leading scorer, most games played in NBA history, countless playoff records, championship with multiple franchise, longevity records that might never be broken. His resume is already complete, and maybe even more importantly, he still has control over the ending. That's something a lot of legends never get. Imagine retiring while still being one of the better players in the league. Imagine walking away before the decline becomes obvious. Imagine leaving fans with memories of greatness instead of memories of struggle. There's something powerful about that. There's something powerful about choosing your own ending. But here's where the debate gets really interesting, because the argument for coming back might be even stronger. Let's start with the obvious one. Championship number 5. You know LeBron has thought about it. Everyone has. One more ring changes everything. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And here's the crazy part. A championship doesn't feel impossible. The Lakers still have Luka, Austin Reeves continue to improve, the front office still has opportunities to improve the roster. And if LeBron is willing to make sacrifices financially, the Lakers could potentially build a much deeper team around their stars. That's why this isn't a farewell tour situation. This isn't a player hanging on just because he can't let go. There's still a real basketball argument for coming back. That's what makes this different from so many other legendary careers. Then there are the other possibilities. What if he doesn't stay in LA? What if another contender becomes an option? What if he decides he wants one final run in a completely different environment? There have been rumors, there have been theories, there have been dream scenarios involving other contenders. Some people have even imagined what it would look like if LeBron James and Steph Curry played together over a full NBA season. Can you imagine the attention that would get? Can you imagine the expectation? Whether those scenarios are realistic or not isn't really the point. The point is that teams would still want him. At 41 years old, that's almost unheard of. And that's why this decision is so fascinating. Usually retirement conversations are easy. The player declines, the production falls, the team moves on, everyone sees it coming. This isn't that. LeBron is still capable of helping a team win. He's still capable of impacting play of basketball. He's still capable of producing at a high level. The only real question is whether the cost of continuing is worth it, because eventually every athlete reaches a point where they have to decide. Do I want to keep competing, or do I want to start the next chapter of my life? For LeBron, that next chapter is already waiting. Business ventures, media projects, potential ownership opportunities. His influence on basketball will continue long after he retires. The game isn't going to forget him. The question is whether he's ready to leave it behind. So where do I stand? If LeBron retired tomorrow, I'd have absolutely no problem with it. The records are secure, the greatness is unquestionable. He already accomplished more than almost any athlete in sports history. But if I had to make a prediction, I think he comes back. I think the comparing him wins. I think the idea of one more championship run is too tempting. I think the opportunity to play alongside Luka for another season is intriguing. And most importantly, I think LeBron still believes he can help a team win at the highest level. As long as he believes that, retirement becomes a lot harder. Because greatness doesn't usually walk away willingly, especially not when there's still something left to chase. But what do you think? Should LeBron retire right now and leave the game on his own terms? Or should he return for season 24 and make one final push towards championship number 5? And if LeBron comes back next season, do you think he'll be with the Lakers or somewhere else entirely? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Peace.